Another webinar, and this time we dedicate this this discussion to the issue of development of wine industry in Georgia, but specifically small wineries, those who contribute a great deal to developments of rural areas, remote areas in Georgia, and ones that are connected strongly to consumers abroad. And obviously the subject of our conversation today will be how these wineries are connected to consumers in the United States and to all of us who are consumers of those wines. I'm drinking one of those, Alla Dasturi from Guanza, from Guanzas and Bayas winery in Opcha in Imereti. I would like to start with the display of few slides. I would like to share a screen with you in a second. And this is a presentation that I prepared for American Association of Wine Economists last year. Unfortunately, this year's conference was delayed because of obvious reasons. And those obvious reasons, epidemiological picture is why we are all on online today and not in personal meetings in Opcha or Guria or Imereti or Kaheti or somewhere else. So I would like to start with a few slides, as I said. And you all know where Georgia is, so you don't need this slide. You know, basic data about Georgia. One thing that I wanted to probably emphasize here is that Georgia exported record amount of bottles last year, 93,478,000 around 1,000 bottles. This number reflects obviously growing production, also growing export potential outside of traditional markets, although traditional markets like Russia, we'll see it in a second, is still dominating Georgian export. Also, about 5% of Georgian production right now is query wine, and the export is reflected about the same. But in US, ratio of query wines, export to US from Georgia, ratio of query wines is much higher. And I don't have exact data right now, but I know some importers are importing only query wines and others are importing at least half of their import query wines. And I'm talking about sizable importers from Georgian perspective. For the point of economic development, I think I see four major channels of impact of viticulture and wine industry on economic development of Georgia. One is export. Another one is tourism, which is in difficulty right now because of, again, pandemic and travel restrictions. And this is serious damage, obviously, for Georgian economy and also for the as a contributor to economic development that impacts country's economy. Investments, because wineries are driving investments into Georgian economy, and that trend is growing. And employment, obviously, one of the main Georgian main economic challenges Georgia is facing is unemployment. All those channels of impact on economic development also, in a sense, directly or indirectly contribute to greater engagement of country in the global economy and raising awareness about Georgia. So they play important role in letting world know about Georgia and Georgian issues, including issues that are important for Georgians like sovereignty, independence, and so forth. I have an interesting chart from American Association of Wine Economists, and you see top markets. Again, Russia is dominant, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, those are the former Soviet Union countries that know Georgia and Georgian brands well. But what is striking in this chart is if you look at the third column here at price of US dollar per liter of exported wines, US is number 8 in total export, but as you can see, it's one of the highest value market for Georgia. Average price of liter exported from Georgia to US is $6.27. Only Singapore is higher, and Singapore has less import from Georgia. So, and why I'm bringing this this chart, because of the potential that US has for Georgian export, Georgian wine export, and potential for smaller wineries also, because what contributes the average price, export price, of being 6.27 per liter from Georgia to US is obviously this handcraft, rare, relatively rare or small production grape varietals or wineries that produces higher quality wines. And if we continue this trend going forward and reach target numbers of Georgian wine export to US at some point, will have significant balance of export market between different export markets. Trend that reflects on previous slide, average price, this growing number of small wineries, and that also contributes to development of guest houses, smaller hotels, and so forth. There are about 100,000 family wineries in Georgia. Not all of them are producing for sale, but there are wineries and they produce wines for domestic, home consumption. And number of those who are registered as businesses is growing from 400 in 2014 to 1,000 in 2019. Growing number of family-owned hotels, let's say like ones that Guanza and Baia have, or Combley has, and others. Also retail outlets, small and large. Obviously larger brand now is 8,000 vintages. It's popular wine shops in Tbilisi, a great destination for tourists. Hotels like Vinotel in Tbilisi, but also elsewhere in Kakheti and other places. Bars like Vino Underground and others. So they're all focused on wines, obviously, but they attract other visitors to Georgia and also, again, contribute to awareness about country and so forth. Now, commoditization is a primary objective of the National Wine Agency and government as well, and in a sense, somewhat our objective as well. We try to facilitate commoditization of the family production of wines, because that way small producers can get more margins. So rather than selling bulk wine locally or just drink it, it makes a lot of sense to export wines, bottle them and export. So, actually it's interesting that wine agency and government moved from subsidizing grape production to subsidizing loans to small wineries and startup wineries as well as developed wineries. And number of those loans is, volume of the financial support to those wineries is growing. And also numbers are growing, and related economic impact is also growing. This is a nice map of wine regions, and I brought it because there are two arrows here indicating two different regions. Imereti, you see Imereti going near Kutaisi. That's, I think, end of the arrow is exactly where Opcha is, where the winery of Baia and Guanza locates in Baghdati district, a little village here called Opcha. And another arrow from indicating Guria region goes in the middle of Guria, and I think that's where the Comli is, and that's what Mariam will talk to us about. So, and actually on this map, we also have logo of our wine forum that we plan for this year. And you probably, some of you at least know that we every year now, it's the third year, we organize America Georgia Business Council, what we call Vino Forum of America. And this year we planned it for UC at UC Davis, Davis, California, in collaboration with university there. If we are through this pandemic, we'll do it in person. If we are not, we have to do it like this on webinar, but we are optimistic that we manage to, at least some of us, to get there and discuss Georgian wines and science of wine and history and geography and economics, also following up on the discussion that we are going to have today. Now I know that it was a long introduction, but it's important introduction, at least from our perspective. And I would like to now give floor to Guanța. Guanța is a winemaker, represents family of Abuladze. She has older sister, Baya, whose wines are already well known in US, and she was featured in 30 Under 30 by Forbes magazine. And Baya's and Guanța's wines are now becoming very, very popular. She also has a younger brother, Georgi, also involved in winemaking, and wonderful parents and grandparents and wonderful people, great place to visit. But I would like Guanța now to tell a story about her winery and development there.
So first of all, thank you so much, Mamka, to give us possibility to join us, join you such a great meeting. Good morning, guys, and good evening on Georgian time. It's really beautiful during this, after this crazy time, to speak again about the wine. And today, during the whole day, I was thinking what to say during this meeting, because to tell the story about our winery, there are lots of different stuff what I really want to share, and I hope I will be available with my English to tell you this everything. So I'm going to start with a train which is just into the next village. So the Opcha is located in the western part of Georgia, as we already saw on the map. And the next village is Sviri, and actually there is one of the big train station in Sviri. And we start Baya was the one between three of us who who established winery, and she was really into the winemaking world in that time, and she get really big passion to figure it out, how to help the families and how to help our local villagers to change something in Opcha. And I mentioned on the beginning this train station because that was the station where we start to bring our wine. So we had huge boxes, and we had our bottles inside these boxes, and we were putting in this train with us. And then it was during really early in the morning, we were going to Tbilisi, and we were trying to deliver our wines because we did not have in that time the car. But the bias idea was in that time that so once you live in Opcha, which is really beautiful village, unfortunately the peoples have people were thinking here that if you continue you're living here, so that means that you are not such a successful person, because as usually there is the idea that if you want to live with a good life, you should move from here because it's a village and you don't have that much possibilities here. And as they were thinking, there was nothing to create and there was nothing to do. And so we finished school here, and then because of university, unfortunately, also we moved in a big city, so in a capital, in Tbilisi. And in that time, so Baya starts thinking how to change this this reality. And she was and for us, for our family, the wine was something what was really common between us and other villagers as well. And then at the same time, she became member of a wine club, which is a really, really beautiful the group of people in Tbilisi, and they know a lot about the wine, and they share their knowledge and experience. And then, so she started to bring our wines in those meetings. And in that time, we did not have any bottles. She found like these big jars, 5-liter big jars. It was like 2014, and they had some degustations there. And during this time, she were like bringing our wines in these degustations. And then after the people were trying those wines, and they were asking like, whose wines was that? And the answer was like, it's a bias wine. And then our winery's name somehow came from that story. But I want to say that so we start in that point, and but every day after this, she was like really trying to explain to even her family members like us that the wine was something what had a great future in Georgia, and wine was something what had a like really beautiful link in our past. Because our grandparents and our big parents, they were also like trying to make wine, and we had this like small beautiful vineyards and some wine like very rich in our wine cellar. And then after this, so in that time, my brother was just like finishing the school, and today actually tomorrow is day after tomorrow is his last exam at university, and he will be the enologue, like winemaker with a diploma between 3 of us. And today it's like a whole family who runs the Bias wine, but the Baya is still boss. She is like really the person who gives us such a passion and who always try to like support us, and once we feel that it's like something goes whatever. And but I want to say that so once we start, we really start from the nothing, like from the zero, and then step by step we are trying to learn more, because once you bottle your wine, so that means that you are a responsible person with other person's case as well. Because if people are trying to drink this wine, and if wine is like if wines have some problem or whatever, you will be one who have to apologize and who have to say that, okay, that's me who tried to make it, and I made some mistakes. And we had like such a mistakes a lot of time. But what is very nice is with our partner's case, and also in the Georgian market's case, we had the mistakes, but the people, I think like 95%, they were like really nice and good people, and they never pushed us hard, and they never argue in our case like that we had some problems, and they were always trying to give us helping hand, and then we learned something, and there is still huge part of the knowledge what we need to learn. But what is the most beautiful part is so once you do something and you have the people around you wants to help you and they wants to support you, then you really, at the end of the day, you really create something. And once we meet our partners from US, so it was 2017, that was like for our family, that was really, really bomb, because we were so happy. And the first export was 600 bottles. And that was like really big thing for us. And so since that time, we were working alone in that time in the winery. And since that time, we just realized that, well, now we need to do something also, because we are responsible person with our community as well. And so today, after like 2017, and after those years of our working with our partners, it's we get lots of knowledge and lots of benefits. And also one of the beautiful benefits is that we so sometimes, like once we meet each other, we share a lot. And it's like it's always the learning process for us. And right now, so when we start, we had 3,000 bottles in totally production, and today we have like around 11,000 bottles. And because like we increased amount of vineyards, and just like last year, we bought also 4 hectare land to plant new grapes as well. But like what we really want to do in Opcha is we like once there will be the young people who will finish school and go to the big city, we want to show them that they can do really beautiful stuff in villages as well. And for that we are working, and I think for the future we need to work like really double hard. So that was like whole Vulcan stuff what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Guanza. I would like to move now to Rose. And Rose is obviously a dear friend for many years now. But most importantly, she is the driver of many, many very interesting initiatives and projects. She's the owner of, she's a co-owner of several two TC restaurants, Compass Rose and Maidan. Also, she's involved in a lot of activities that promote, which promote producers from all around the world, obviously focusing on wine, but not only on wine, but also other products. And she travels a lot, not recently though, travels a lot around the world and promotes food and recipes from different parts of the world. And I think if somebody could be the kind of example of how to bridge small producers, genuine local economic development to large markets like the United States and Washington, D.C. market in this case, I think Rose is a perfect example of that. And Rose, floor is yours.
Well, that's a kind introduction. And like Avanza, I just want to thank you all for having me. I feel very, very honored to be in this group of people today. I feel lucky as a non-Georgian to be allowed to be this friend to Georgia. Georgians, they've made it very easy over the years to support their wine program, their food, and I just had hoped, after living in Russia for 3 years, my husband and I lived in Moscow from 2009 to 2012 while he was a foreign correspondent for NPR. And I sometimes say my favorite thing about living in Russia was that I got to learn about Georgia. And, some of our favorite food while we were living there was Georgian cuisine. And, we heard from the entire expat community at the time that Georgian wine was the best wine. It was affordable, it was delicious, they'd been making it for years and thousands of years, but we couldn't have it because the Russians had an embargo on Georgian wine at the time. But as an expat, you were required to go to Georgia and bring back Georgian wine with you for all of your friends. And that was my introduction to Georgian wine. And then my husband and I got to travel there, and we fell in love with it just like we knew we were going to. And then when going back to the United States in 2012, after a visit to Georgia and 3 cold winters in Moscow, I decided to open my restaurant in 2014, Compass Rose. And it's based on street food and global cuisine from around the world that my husband and I traveled and tasted. And it was really meant to tell stories of our travels and of the people that we met on our journeys, because we traveled extensively during those 3 years. But I knew that I had to tell people about Georgia. There's many countries on the menu at any given time. But Khachapuri and Georgian wine had to be featured from day one, because back in 2014, there wasn't any Khachapuri in DC. It was even hard to find in New York. And Georgian wine was not as prevalent as it is now. And so really, it was just a small thing, to put it on our menu and really start putting the word out through social media. Mamuka and his business partner, Noel, they were my mentors into Georgian wine. They have been incredibly supportive of me as a female, entrepreneur all of these years. Mamuka was teaching me Georgian wine and doing a tasting when Compass Rose had a huge hole in the ground and wasn't even built yet. And he believed in what we were doing. And between him and other members of the Georgian community, they've given me the tools I need as a non-Georgian just to spread the word about this hospitable country that brought me in and taught me and fed me and gave me lots of wine and lots of cha-cha. So I feel like I have a debt to pay at this point. So we realized through working and traveling in Georgia that there are so many small wineries and family-owned businesses that we could bring in with the help of Georgian Wine House to introduce our customers to. And through the Georgian Wine Association and through Georgian Wine House and through just a commitment from my businesses to invest in bringing our staff to Georgia, we've been able to visit. Excuse me, this is not a commercial for LaCroix, but I needed some water. And I took my staff. The course of the last 6.5 years, I think we've been on 4 or 5 trips to Georgia where I'm able to take the staff and we meet the winemakers. Like, we've been to Baia and Gavance's house, we've picked grapes with them. I can't tell you how meaningful that was to the staff. And they realize that why Georgia is really, you know, highlighted at Compass Rose and at Maidan, because they've now met the people whose families have been making this wine for generations. They see that the operations are meaningful and how much our buying the wine can help increase production at these small vineyards. And it's so much more rewarding than just selling any old wine from big producers that you'd never hear about or learn their stories. And then, like Mamuka said, it really opened my eyes to other countries around the world that have similar stories, particularly Bolivia, Lebanon. I'm Lebanese American, and while I had traveled to Lebanon, I hadn't focused on wine in the past. Now I go there and I search out small farmers and small wine, you know, grape growers to meet the people who are bottling this wine and sending it to us. And truly, you know, Georgian wine, and particularly Baia and Gavance's wine, sells itself. When people hear their stories and they hear the story of Georgia, I have to say it's not a hard sell after that. Some of them, it takes a minute, you know, for them to trust what we're saying, that this amber wine came out of a clay jar in the ground and they're really gonna like it. You know, sometimes they take some convincing. But with a story like Baia and Gavance's, honestly, the first day that we told the staff their story, and we explained who they were and we showed them pictures. Many of our servers and bartenders are women, and they took this story and they were so inspired that such young women could be doing something, you know, which is not traditional in the country for women that young to be producing wine like that. They took that story, they told every single table back when we served people at tables. And by the end of the night, we had sold everything that we had. And I had multiple tables say, you know, where can I find more? Where could I buy a case of this wine? Then we send them to Batch 13, our friends down the street from Compass Rose, to take cases home with them. And so I really feel like giving a voice to the stories of Georgia and to the winemakers is just, it's a small thing that we can do, and more people like Supra and many others in DC have been doing. To give Georgia credit, or I'm sorry, to give DC credit, they've been a very, you know, warm audience to what we're doing, and they've welcomed us, and we've been going strong. And through the pandemic, we've been doing to go. The city graciously let us curb the rules on our liquor license. So now folks have been able to take wine with them when they order food from us to go. It's pickup right now and delivery. We just added a little outdoor seating at Maidan, which is very exciting. But I will say at the beginning, people just, they couldn't get enough. They were buying all the wine they could back in March and April. And I do think that sales have changed a little bit as more wine clubs opened up, as more online services became apparent that during the pandemic, you could get wine brought to your doorstep. But you know, this is good. This is all we wanted. We wanted people to drink more Georgian wine, and we hope that we can continue to do that. The pandemic has slowed things down, but we're still selling it on our to-go menus and telling our stories through social media. And whenever, you know, we're asked to do an interview, we tell the stories of people like Baia and Gavance, and we cannot wait to go back.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you. I think clearly potential is huge at DC market, and I'm sure other markets are. We work, all of us, all the people who are promoters and, in a sense, ambassadors of Georgian wine to the US, we're all trying to replicate some of the success stories of DC to other places. Boston is emerging, is a very interesting place. Several cities in California, some of the Midwest states, your home state, Michigan, is a very interesting now destination for Georgian wine. So, and we have great partners there, and many other places. So we see obviously a very, very great potential in this, and we hope to keep this connection with between those producers of quality wines and people who are interested in them. Now we move from Imereti to DC and now to another beautiful part of Georgia, Guria, and Mariam, who is representing family business called Comli, will talk to us about some of her story and her family story. We don't have Mariam's and Comli wine yet into U.S. market. It's on its way to the U.S. and will be here soon. But bottle is right there. We don't see entire label, but bottle is there. So that's a place where she is. Okay, Mariam, please go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the introduction. It was very lovely to hear all of you, and it's an honor to be here as one of the speakers. And I just wanted to say that for me, all of you, Mamuka, Kwanzaa and Rose are big inspiration, and we're just on our starting point of our small business. And I will shortly tell you about Comli and about Comli wine, which we have produced last year for the first time in the past 30 years. So I will start about Comli. That this is the place where I am right now. This house is about 200 years old, and this is where my ancestors lived for years and years. And at many points there was a danger that this house will be abandoned and nobody would live here anymore. But my mother, after many years of living in this city, she decided to come back in this house and to light the fire once again. And this fire is very symbolic because Comli in itself, this word in Georgian, it means a family living in the rural area. And it comes from the etymology, comes from the word Comli, which is smoke coming out of the chimney. And this means that there in the house there are people, there is a fire, food is being made, wine, they're drinking wine, and so on. So this is why we chose this word Comli, because in a way it represents who we are. So let me tell you shortly about Guria. It's one of the smallest regions in Georgia. It's a small country, and it is, but it is very special because it turned out that in Georgia we have 60 different varieties of the wine cultures, from which 25 can be used to make wine. And it is second after Kakheti. And I think most of you would agree that even for—
You mean in Guria?
Yes, only in Guria. Yeah. And I think even for the country, it is quite a big number. And but unfortunately, Guria is also one of the poorest regions in Georgia, and a lot of its economy was during the Soviet Union was based on the mostly on the tea, and later in the 90s on the hazelnut plantations. So our yard was mostly hazelnuts, and it was only a few years ago when we decided to bring back the vineyard. And for a long time in Georgia, in Guria, they would have the vines growing more naturally, but a lot of these indigenous vines were lost. And Rose was talking about how most, and Mamuk also mentioned how most of the Georgian wine was exported to Russia, and Russia is still #1 country where the wine is exported. But actually it was most of the time it was a massive production wine, and it was not such a good quality. And some people even joke that, like, this embargo that Rose mentioned in 2008 when Russia stopped, we could not export our wine to Russia anymore. It was the best thing that happened to the Georgian wine, because this is when the small wineries and the people who are all these families who were making wine for years and years, they started to put forward their wine. and to be more careful about it, about the taste, to learn. And some people even would say that now it is the renaissance of the Georgian wine. So I remember when I first came to the United States, I of course was bragging about Georgian being the birthplace of wine, as we had the first qvevri that are this, most of you probably know, the clay pots from the earth that were found in Georgia, and we still use it for making wine. And but I was surprised because most of the people knew nothing about Georgian wine at all. And I was, everybody spoke about Italian wine, about French wine, but the people didn't know about Georgian wine. And I think it is really important that now, since I think like, as Rose was saying, and also with the Georgian wine house, it has become more known, and more people know about this kind of wines that that are from these small wineries, because we we cannot really compete maybe with the mass production with other countries, but what we can share with the customers is this kind of wine that is very special and has very is made in this specific region that gives it a very particular taste and color, and it is and flavor. And when we made our wine last year, it was a very big, let's say, celebration for us, because it is for me, for example, the wine culture. It is something that is of my ancestors, and when I never, as a woman, I didn't really see myself as somebody who would be making wine. And I think also Guanta would agree that it is rare that mostly like Georgians would say that it is some kind of a work that mostly men do, that they produce wine. And now for the first time, we made qvevri, which is kind of, which is rosé. I will show you the color. It is very special color. It's not really rosé, but it is darker, and it's I think really the first time that we have bottled it and sent only, we only have 400 bottles, and we sent 250 bottles to the United States that are about to arrive. And so far, everybody who tasted it very much like it, and we are very open to receive the comments. And I think that it really has the character of a person who is making the wine. So I think this character that this wine has is of my mother. And she was really taking care of it as so it was her baby, as me and my sister are already grown up. And I think that once you taste this wine, you will be able to taste it, the history, and also this story of our house, and of the flavor of something made with love and lots of passion. So I hope you have a chance and enjoy. And maybe in the future also visit us at Komli, because at Komli we also have not only wine, but other, we make some tea, we have places to stay, and in general, Rose has been there, and we always welcome people from everywhere.
Thank you, Mariam. Thank you. Great story again. And just to mention once again that we don't have Mariam's Komli wine yet, but we have Alada story from Guanta, Rosé. That's what I'm having today. Let me go back to now question to Guanta, if she's still around.
Yes.
Guanta, you mentioned a few things, and also you mentioned that there was something specific that dictated you to pay more attention to some of the more trendy wines that are interesting for US markets. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's actually, so for us, like 2 years ago, we decided to make a sparkling wine. And it was just like accidentally, we were, actually it was like only 3 weeks before harvest. And we did not really knew that much about the sparkling wine. And we were thinking like, okay, so let's try and how it will end up. So we have friends in Georgia who are like a very nice and interesting winemakers. And also, you know what I really love in Georgia is like there is this like a winemakers community. And if you need something, they are always open to help you. You just need like their numbers or email address, but don't call them during the harvest time because it's hard. They will be like pretty mad. But other times they are very, very, very nice people. So, and then, so we find out and we learn how to do it. And then it was actually Rose who really supported us because we made, I think, 200 bottles in that year. And she was the one who say that like, okay, I'm gonna like take all of those bottles. And we were like, whoa, it's our first time. Just, that was really great. And then after this, like this year, it was our second year and we made like 700 bottles and it was still her who supported us. And she was like, okay, like, because, you know, such a kind of stuff for the people who are in a wine industry, let's say, and for the people who are not like super knowledgeable with the wines means like a really, really big support. And for us, we know that we can like, of course, during the making process, maybe we will make some mistakes, but then like next year, that means that we already know and we will try to develop ourselves to like work more hard and to respect the trust what people give us. So thanks, Rose, for that our bubbles is also this year as well. So, and it's always really fun to try something new, but also it's always very important when you feel someone's like when you feel someone next to you that they always tells you that, okay, you can try, and then like we'll see. So it's really, really beautiful.
Thank you, Vansa. The reason I went to this question is that because I think it's very essential that for small producers in Georgia to understand what type of demand is on the market and what are the wines that are required by market, and understanding and connection, this type of connection with people who in a sense, as I said earlier, are bridging those producers to consumers is very essential. So I think that's why I wanted you to bring this experience to the audience, and making wines exactly the way. I mean, you educate consumers with the wines that you make, but also in a sense, you also listen to them and their feedback as well. So that's a part of the process.
Actually, like in our case, it's always like that we have like one of the biggest portion of our production with the numbers, we could say that it's a 70%. So we always try to continue the traditional way, but we always keep some amount of grape juice for the experiments. And what helps us most is to meet the people. And like really interesting is when we are going for some exhibitions, for example, like Vino Forum, or there was this raw wine festival, and so then you have a possibility to talk to the customers and then see what they are thinking about your wine, and they listen to feedbacks. And then we like it's always interesting and important that because of we are three, we need to find out like one decision, and we always argue a lot because we have sometimes like different opinions, but at the end of the day, those kind of situations to meet the peoples and talk with them, and also like find out our passions, what we like to do, is always help us to find out what we can do for the harvest time. So that helps us a lot.
Thank you, thank you. Rose, you mentioned Bolivia and some other countries. Can you tell us a little bit, I mean, if just to compare the experiences, are stories similar that you are having with other countries? And do you see this kind of similar trajectory, or do you see some differences? Obviously, let's say Lebanese expat community here is much larger, and they have larger history of presence here, but Bolivians is not. But maybe some other kind of experiences. Whatever you can share with us that will be educational for us all, definitely. Thank you.
No, I hope it's helpful. And I think my knowledge is a little more limited to restaurants as opposed to retail, which I know can be different. But I actually was drawn to Bolivia, also introduced through an importer like Georgian Winehouse, but Shoefly Imports. And I visited there as well and very quickly realized that there were some similarities. They have not been making wine nearly as long as Georgia, but I was welcomed in the same way by very proud, hardworking people who know their wine is very good and just need a way to get the attention in this far off place, America, with all these spending dollars for alcohol, but face some of the same obstacles that Lebanon or Georgia does. And I think that's, as we all know, the general bias towards places like Italy or France or Spain that they're more familiar with. And so I saw that as a shared challenge. And then I kept meeting similar people who are so kind and have this beautiful history to tell and have these high quality wines, because as you can hear, when you're only making a limited amount of bottles, the quality is amazing. I loved what Mariam said about the wine being like her mother, who I love very much. She's a wonderful person. And maybe part of the reason I have no problem ever taking the chance on a new bottle that Baya and Gavansa are making is because I do believe the winemaker their soul is in these bottles, just like mine is in my restaurants. And, you can go wrong, but you're probably not going to go that wrong. And I saw that in Bolivia, I saw that in Lebanon. And once I realized that there were importers like you, Mamuka, and like Noel, who go out of their way to introduce us as a business to people like Baya, like Gavansa, like Mariam and her family, this can be done. It does take a little bit more work, and it does take a little bit more time than just taking, whatever the big suppliers bring by as a sample. You could do it the easy way, you could do it that way, but the more of us that do it this way, the more wine we can bring in and the more we can introduce people and almost normalize it to the point that we can change the American mentality that the best wine comes from Europe. I have all the respect in the world for them. And I'm not a somm and I'm not an expert, but what like Gavansa was just saying, I hear what people are saying. I hear what my guests are saying, what the customers are saying, and they're very happy with the quality of these wines from just regions they just don't know as well. But once they realize where it's coming from, the quality and the care and the history behind it, they're very willing to try it. And I do believe that the big, cities like DC are definitely well-traveled and open-minded, but I know we can do this. And I know you guys are already doing this across the United States. So I love to hear the numbers that you had last year, and we're going to fight through this year. And I really, really believe we're going to be okay. Part of the reason too, is I think this year and the generation coming up, my younger guests, they really want to know where their money is going. They want to know what they're spending their money on. And it's like, if you can spend your money on anything, especially with wine. There's so many wines, and there's so many good wines in the world. But don't you want to go to the wines that stand out because of who made them and where they came from, and the fact that you can make a difference doing that? I think the consumers that I am serving, they do want that. So I am very hopeful that regardless of this year being really hard, that we're going to get through it. And I'm excited for what next year is going to bring.
Thank you, Rose. Appreciate that. And definitely this is very, very important knowledge that you accumulated in your activities in the restaurant. That's very helpful and supportive to what we are trying to do. I think when we talked about Opća and Sveri and Imereti, while it's still underdeveloped, but it's relatively more developed than Guria probably, and there's already a cluster forming of different wineries in near Opća and around surrounding areas. And there are not just one or two wineries, but several now in the proximity, and they probably will grow in the future. Mariam, what can you tell us about where you are and what type of sort of cluster development or development impact that what you are trying to do, you may expect to have on others in where you are? Just very briefly, to maybe in 2-3 minutes.
Sure. So in Guria, to be honest, in the beginning, we only started to, it was only 2 years ago when we started to receive guests, and it was just to like stay at our place, to experience the food, to experience the tea, but we didn't have the wine yet. And many times our guests, because most of the visitors who travel to Georgia, they're interested in wine, and there is a wine route, and people really want to visit the wineries, and they would ask us, where can we go, can we taste some wine? And it was really a shame that we didn't have wine, and even around our area there was no wineries that we could suggest. Even now there are only maybe 3 wineries in the Ozurgeti municipality that have the wine degustation and have this place where you can taste their wine. So many times we would send them to another municipality of Guria, which is Chokhatauri, to David Kobice. And Tato's wine is, Tato is one of our biggest inspiration and teachers who really helped us through all the process of the making the wine. And we also help him with like introducing him to the American market. And I think that now that people around us, they see that it is possible that you can make your wine, and there are people who are coming and who want to taste this wine, and they are willing to pay money for this kind of experience. It is still something new to Guria, because maybe 10 years ago, I remember when in Kakheti, you would tell the families that, okay, there are going to be people coming to in your house, and you're just going to let them taste some wine, and it will be your business. They would laugh at you. They would say, no, like, this is because in Georgia this is not how we drink wine, and it is it is a tradition that whenever a guest comes to your family, you just invite them on wine, and you make toast, and you finish your glass. But I think this has very quickly changed, and now in Kakheti there are like hundreds of the families who do the wine degustation. And now I really hope that in the West Georgia, which is also very interesting with these flavors and with very special varieties of the indigenous wines, this similar thing will happen, and more and more families will start to introduce their wine to the tourists and people visiting. Mamuka, we can't hear you.
I think you're on mute, Mamuka.
Okay. I was saying something very clever, but I didn't want others to hear this. Guanza, maybe you can say maybe one last word, and then I'll ask Rose to do the same, and then I'll close with my closing remarks.
So, okay, I hope it will be last, but not really, really last. We'll see. Yeah. What I really want to say, guys, is so in this world, we just find out, like, during this process of the winemaking or living in a village and like working with other peoples, is that it's very nice if you can to help other peoples, because for our case, we just find out this. And we are really thankful for everyone who really helped us during this process. And from our side, we always will try to also help to our communities to show them what we received and to give them what we received from this work, because that's if you want to be happy, I think the people around you, if they will be happy also, that's going to be like a really, really beautiful and nice life. So that's what I really want to say.
Thank
and
you.
Have a wonderful day too.
Rose?
Oh, I just want to say you guys have you've made my day, because with all your joy and your optimism. And so thank you. As you guys all know, the restaurant industry has been incredibly hard lately, but we're all going through something hard. And I do think we will get through it. It was the Russian experience that taught me the kind of fatalism of like, oh, you could die tomorrow. And that I kind of flipped it and made it a little bit optimistic and said, I could die tomorrow. Like everything could go terribly, terribly wrong. So I should just try to open this business, because why not? And it turned into 2 beautiful restaurants that I'm really proud of, who I believe are going to make it through this crisis. And, I guess I want to say the same thing to the other businesses, who are like me, who can, with a little extra work, can meet people like Mamuka and Noel, who are there to sell them these beautiful wines, like Shoefly Imports, who can introduce you to Bolivia, and just try something different. Just give it a try. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I think 2020 has taught us that. So let's be really conscious with where our dollars are going, and make sure they're going somewhere that we believe in. And then I think we can amplify these voices to the point that it just grows and grows, to the point that, the 1,000 bottles turns into hundreds of thousands of bottles. So anyway, I wish everybody luck. We'll get through this year. But my patio is open at Medan, so if you want to come have a glass of Georgian wine, let me know. I've got it ready for you.
Thank you, Rose, and thank you, everyone. I know that people have some questions, but unfortunately our time is limited. But I just wanted to, before I'll make few final words, I wanted to recognize that we have several other producers online watching us, like Rezo from Rezo's family, now Tari Wine. He's in Ohio, but his family is also producing great wines from Kaheti. And I see Michael is here, Kavelnitsky, who is the importer. I see Julie. I see Jeff Slavin, who is a distributor in Boston area. And I see Giga from Shalauri. And I see Dave McIntyre, Washington Post writer, Lasha Satava from, and Erika, great friends and promoters of Georgian wine in Boston area. So great many friends and colleagues, and we are all in this great endeavor to promote and not just promote Georgian wine, but also build this bridge between US and Georgia from wine perspective, and make Americans feel the flavor of Georgia before they go there, so that they have greater interest to visit country and also to understand it. Because if you don't understand wine, you don't understand Georgia, obviously. My last few sentences will be about our continuous effort. America-Georgia Business Council will try to host once a month webinars like this. We were very lucky to have this wonderful lineup of speakers. It's probably, it's really great fortune to have all 3 of you contributing to this discussion, and you definitely made this very interesting, but also very beautiful to watch, not just to listen. And but we plan to have multiple subjects before we enter the preparation for annual meeting in November, and we'll try to talk about multiple subjects, all of them leading to Winner Forum 2020 at UC Davis. And probably one final word is that again, these are not easy times for restaurant businesses in particular. Retails are doing well on alcohol sale, but restaurants are, it's not easy. I think we all understand that, and we'll try our best to support and contribute to as much as we can. So this is something that also producers need to understand, that this time is difficult. and focusing again on wines that have better reach to hearts and minds of consumers is a priority for producers. Luckily, there are more and more producers in Georgia who understand that what they are trying to do it has ultimate judges, in a sense that it's all destined for some good people to consume and to drink and enjoy, and understanding what these wonderful people want, and producing that type of wine, and also bottling it way people want to see it. And it's a combination of art, I would say, business, aesthetics, agribusiness, history, culture, and everything else. So when you see a bottle of wine, it has 8,000 years of history of Georgia in it, and that's what every bottle that comes from Georgia to United States has to reflect, preferably, that heritage. So I'll end on this. I would like to thank again speakers, to all of our participants. Thank you all. And this recording will be available on the website of American Georgia Business Council and through some other social media. And sorry again if I didn't manage to deliver some of your questions to our speakers. Thank you and goodbye.